She was fleeing an arranged marriage. A poor mechanic hit her, not knowing she was a billionaire. Anna Rowan stood silently in the hallway outside Grant Wexler's study. She had been looking for her bracelet, but the open laptop on his desk caught her attention. She hesitated, then stepped inside. The screen showed a string of emails, some encrypted, some with subject lines vague but alarming. One message stopped her cold. Phase 2. Finalize removal of Richard Rowan fund transfer upon confirmation. Her father's name removal. She clicked to read more. The emails were between Grant and a foreign investment group discussing a hostile takeover of Rowan Apparel. The plan wasn't just business. It included eliminating her father. Anna pulled back from the screen, her stomach turned. Her fiancé, the man her father trusted, the man she was supposed to marry in a matter of days, was planning to kill Richard Rowan, not just betray him, remove him. That night, she told her father everything. He listened, arms crossed, expression hard. "Anya, you always dramatize things. I'm not making this up. Grant is planning something dangerous. You are looking for a reason to break off the engagement. You've always been difficult when it comes to commitment." I read the emails. "Dad, I'm done with this." Before she could say more, he turned away. The next day, she was under constant watch. Security around her for protection. But she understood. They were making sure she didn't run or ruin the deal. The engagement party came quickly. The press had already labeled it the merger of the decade. Anya smiled through photos, through speeches, through the weight of a decision she had already made. She waited for the right moment. Just after the formal introductions, she slipped away through the service hallway. In a storage room, she changed clothes, trading silk for a dusty gray warehouse uniform she had hidden earlier. She tied her platinum blonde hair under a knit beanie and dirted her face just enough to pass as one of the crew. She joined the night shift quietly. No one looked twice as she helped load fabric into a delivery truck bound for the company's warehouse in Arizona. Inside the back of the truck, Anna sat between rolls of fabric, knees pulled to her chest, heart pounding. She didn't know what she would do next. She just knew she had to get away from Grant, from the engagement, from a life built on lies. The drive was long. She lost track of time. Somewhere in the early hours, far from the city, the truck swerved suddenly. Brakes screamed. The back shifted violently. Something slammed into her shoulder as the truck tilted and crashed into a shallow ditch. The doors flew open. Anna rolled out onto the hard ground, scraping her arms as she fell. She blinked against the darkness, trying to move. Pain throbbed in her side. Her vision blurred. She tried to sit up but couldn't. She looked up once, saw stars overhead, and then everything went black. She had escaped. But for the first time, she wondered, was she truly safe? The desert was still when Cal Beckett spotted something that didn't belong. He had just stepped out to check a loose panel on the side of his garage when a glint of color at the edge of the road caught his eye. At first, he thought it was a discarded tarp, but as he walked closer, he saw the outline of a person, small, slumped, unmoving. He broke into a jog. A woman lay half buried in sand and dust, one arm curled protectively over her side. Her clothes were stained, her palms scraped, and her lips cracked from the dry air. A faded beanie had slid halfway off her head, revealing tangled strands of platinum blonde hair. He crouched beside her. "Miss," no response. He checked for a pulse. Steady, but weak. She was breathing, but clearly dehydrated and injured. Without another word, he lifted her carefully into his arms and carried her to the garage. Beckett's motor sat at the edge of a dusty highway miles from the nearest town. It wasn't much, just a main bay, a storage unit, and a small office. But it was home. He had built it with his own hands. After leaving the racetrack behind, quiet, efficient, and just far enough from everything. Inside, he laid the woman on a cot in the back room. He grabbed a first aid kit, cleaned the dried blood from a gash on her arm, and gave her small sips of water. She stirred once, whispering something he couldn't catch. When she finally opened her eyes, she stared at the ceiling, disoriented. "You're safe," Cal said calmly. "You were out by the highway. Looked like you took a bad fall." She blinked, then slowly sat up. "Where am I?" "My garage. About 20 m from Sandrock." He paused. "Name's Cal Beckett." She hesitated. "Ella," she said after a second. "Ella Monroe." Cal gave a slow nod. "You got family out here, Ella?" "I was traveling. Got separated from my group." Her voice was horsero. The lie coming a little too smoothly. He didn't press. "Well, you're in luck. Not many folks pass through here, but I've got a spare cod and some canned soup if you're hungry." She nodded gratefully. Over the next day, Anna, now Ella, rested, keeping to herself. She noticed the way Cal moved, quiet, methodical, polite, but distant. He offered her food, water, and space, but never asked personal questions. It was exactly what she needed. By the third day, she insisted on helping out in return. "I can sweep, organize parts, whatever you need." Cal arched a brow, but handed her a broom. "All right, but don't touch the tools unless you know what they do." "I'm not completely useless," she said with a hint of a smile. That night, after Cal closed the garage and disappeared into the back office, Anna wandered into the side bay. There, under a dusty canvas, she found a sleek, half-restored race car. Its curves were sharp, framed low to the ground, metal stripped to its bones. Beside it, neatly arranged on a bench, were hand-drawn blueprints and technical sketches, some aged, some newly penciled in. She stepped closer, brushing her fingers lightly over the hood. "You found her," Cal's voice said from behind. Anya turned. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching. "She's beautiful," she said. "Used to be that car nearly killed me once." There was something in his tone. Not regret exactly, but wait. History. She didn't ask for details. He didn't offer any. Instead, she said, "You must have really loved driving." Cal looked at her for a moment before replying. "I still do, just not the way I used to." Anna nodded. She understood more than he realized. Both of them had once belonged to a different world, one that had turned on them when they least expected it. She looked back at the car. "What's her name?" "Haven't decided yet," he said quietly. Anya smiled. "Maybe you're waiting for the right person to name her." Cal didn't answer, but his eyes softened. By the end of her first week at the garage, Anna, still going by Ella, had found a rhythm to the quiet life. She woke before sunrise, swept the floors, made coffee, and organized spare parts in neat labeled bins. She cooked simple meals with what little she could find in the pantry. And in the afternoons, she helped sort through old invoices and manuals stacked in the office. There was something peaceful about the silence here, about the way the desert light came through the wide garage doors and spilled across the concrete floor. She wasn't looking over her shoulder. No one was taking photos or calling her name. Cal gave her space, and in that space, she started to breathe again. One morning while folding laundry behind the main garage bay, she noticed one of Cal's work shirts. Its sleeves torn, the collar frayed, grease permanently embedded in the seams. She opened a storage closet and found an old crate of unused canvas and denim scraps. That evening, after Cal had gone to sleep, she sat in the office with a needle, thread, and the shirt laid across her lap. Her hands moved instinctively, sewing clean seams, reinforcing worn elbows, adding lining where the fabric had thinned. By the third shirt, she had built an entire set of new uniforms. The next day, Cal noticed. "Where'd these come from?" he asked, holding up the repaired shirt. She shrugged casually. "Just patched a few things." He examined the stitching closely. "This isn't just patching. That's industrial-grade sewing." You do this often? She hesitated, then offered a half-truth. My mother was a seamstress. I picked up a few things. Cal gave a short nod, but didn't press. That was something she was learning about him. He didn't dig for what people weren't ready to share. That made it easier to stay. Later that week, Anna caught sight of a woman moving slowly behind the garage. She stepped outside and saw Cal gently guiding a frail silver-haired woman to a chair under the shade of a mesquite tree. Her skin was pale, and she moved carefully, each breath measured. This is my mom, Cal said. Marilyn. Anna walked over with a smile. Would she like some tea? A few minutes later, she returned with a steaming cup of ginger tea and a soft blanket. She knelt beside Marilyn, speaking gently, asking about her health. The heat, what kind of tea she preferred. Marilyn studied her with curious eyes. You have a strong voice, but soft hands, not something you see often. Then she added, and eyes that don't fear the wind. That night, when Marilyn wasn't feeling well, Anna boiled water and made a bowl of rice porridge the way her housekeeper used to do it when she was a child. Cal came into the kitchen, paused as he watched her stirring, and simply said, "Thank you." A few nights later, while they were both sitting in the garage cleaning the metal frame of the race car, Cal spoke without looking at her. Last year, I got an offer to move to Germany, a big automotive company. They wanted me to oversee a design team for their next racing engines. Anna looked over, surprised, and you turned it down. He nodded once. Mom had just been diagnosed with stage 2 heart failure. No one else to look after her. There was a long pause before she said softly, "The world may need people like you, Cal. But sometimes a mother needs her son more than the world needs another engineer." The next morning, she opened the door to find her worn-out sneakers cleaned, restitched, and resting on a mat. A soft insole had been added, and the rubber had been glued where it had peeled. Beside them was a note written in solid handwriting. Not much, but you deserve to walk without pain. She held the shoes in her hands for a long time, her chest tightening. It wasn't diamonds. It wasn't power. It was kindness. Quiet, deliberate, and rare. That evening, the two of them climbed onto the roof of the garage to watch the sun drop below the desert horizon. The air was warm, the sky painted in streaks of gold and blood orange. Anna had taken off the beanie days ago. Her platinum hair danced in the wind, untamed, unapologetic. Cal stood beside her, hands in his pockets. He glanced at her once, long enough to speak volumes, but said nothing. She looked back and for the first time in weeks, she let herself smile. The old library in Sandrock was almost always empty, especially on weekdays. Anna sat at a corner computer station, her fingers trembling as she attached the final set of documents to the email. Her heart thudded as she hovered over the send button. The files, bank transfers, encrypted conversations, false contracts were the proof she had taken from Grant's computer before she disappeared. Evidence of money laundering, of criminal partnerships overseas, of a plot to eliminate her father and seize the Rowan Empire. She clicked send. The message vanished into cyberspace. It was done. She leaned back in the creaking plastic chair, staring at the blank screen, her chest hollow with relief and fear. Outside, the sky was bright, the desert heat unforgiving. She didn't know that the public library's IP address had just lit up a digital trail. Grant Wexler did. Within hours of the email reaching the FBI, Grant's team flagged the signal. The source was traced. 20 miles west of Sandrock, a dusty town, a highway, a single garage. 3 days later, Cal noticed the SUV. It parked a little too long near the gas station across from the garage. Tinted windows, engine running. The driver never stepped out. When Cal started walking toward it, it sped off without hesitation. That night, he said nothing, but his guard was up. He checked the locks twice, made sure the garage bay was shut tight, and slept with one ear open. The next afternoon, a man came by pretending to ask for directions. His questions were vague, but his eyes searched too carefully. When he asked if anyone new had been around, a girl may be traveling alone, Cal shut the conversation down. Later that evening, over a quiet dinner of reheated stew, Cal set his spoon down and looked across the table. "Ella, if you were in serious trouble, would you trust me to help?" She froze. The spoon in her hand hovered above her bowl. "I do trust you," she said softly. "But I won't let you get dragged into something dangerous because of me." He didn't push further, but her answer stayed with him. Before sunrise the next morning, Anna packed a small bag and left a letter on the workbench in the garage. Her handwriting was careful, deliberate. "You saved me without knowing who I was. That means more than I can ever explain. But I won't let you get hurt because of me. Please forgive me." She stepped outside into the dawn light, heart pounding, ready to disappear again. But Cal was already leaning against the truck, arms crossed. "I figured you'd try something," he said. She froze. "I'm not asking for answers, Ella," he added. "But I've spent a lifetime not letting people in. Then you showed up. And it wasn't random. I don't believe that anymore. So, no, I'm not letting you walk away while someone's still chasing you." Her lips parted, but the words didn't come. There was nothing left to say. That night, they both fell asleep, uneasy. And sometime after midnight, the smell of smoke woke Cal first. He jolted upright, coughing. The hallway was glowing orange. Flames licked along the workshop walls. Someone had broken in. A Molotov cocktail had been thrown through the side window. Cal didn't hesitate. He grabbed a fire extinguisher and ran toward the office where Anna was sleeping. The heat was thick, acrid. He could barely see. He kicked the door open, smoke pouring in behind him. "Ella," she stirred, coughing violently as he dragged her out into the garage, but the fire was spreading fast. The race car he'd been restoring. It was burning. He looked between her and the flames, then back at her. "Cal." "No," she screamed as he turned back, but he charged in, grabbing the fire extinguisher again. He sprayed foam at the engine bay, shielding the most delicate parts. He pulled the cover free, throwing it into the flames to buy seconds. When the extinguisher hissed empty, he staggered back out, coughing, one arm shielding his eyes. Anna was waiting. She grabbed him, her hands on his face, frantic. "You could have died." His voice was rough. "You almost did," she held him, her tears falling silently as the last of the flames crackled in the distance. "I can't let you die because of me," she whispered. Cal leaned his forehead against hers, his voice barely a breath. "I wouldn't know how to live if you were gone." The morning after the fire brought silence instead of relief. Smoke still lingered in the air as Cal moved slowly through the ruins of the garage, his right arm wrapped in gauze. Blackened steel, scorched tools, and ash-covered floorboards stretched out before him like a battlefield. Anya had gone into town early to get more burn cream and supplies. She had left quietly, hoping to avoid drawing attention, but it was already too late. At the site, a local deputy noticed the fire damage and stopped by to file a report. He spoke briefly with Cal, jotted notes, then turned toward a half-burned photo tacked to the wall. An old snapshot of Anna in the background, her platinum blonde hair unmistakable even through smoke-stained glass. The deputy narrowed his eyes. "That girl, she's all over the news." Cal tensed. "Name's Na Rowan. Been missing for weeks. Her family filed a national alert. You got any idea where she is?" 10 minutes later, Cal was in handcuffs. At the sheriff's station, the questions came fast. Did he know who she really was? Had he been hiding her? Was she being held against her will? He said nothing that could make it worse, but nothing that could make it better either. Meanwhile, Anna stood in the parking lot with a paper bag of supplies when her phone rang. It was her lawyer in New York, his voice sharp and urgent. "They've detained someone under your name. Are you safe?" Her stomach dropped. Within the hour, she was on her way to the station, not as Ella Monroe, but as Anna Rowan. She walked into the lobby wearing a crisp white blazer and jeans, her hair down and wind blown, no longer hiding. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried the weight of everything she'd run from. "I need to speak with the officer in charge," she said clearly. Inside the interview room, Cal sat at the metal table, his expression unreadable until the door opened. When he saw her, he blinked slowly, as if seeing her for the first time. She didn't hesitate. She turned to the officer. "My name is Anna Rowan. I am the person you're looking for. Cal Beckett is not involved in any wrongdoing. He didn't kidnap me. He saved my life." The officer asked for identification. She handed him her wallet, her license, her Rowan Apparel ID. Her voice never wavered. "I left my life for reasons of safety. I chose not to reveal my identity. Cal Beckett provided shelter, food, and protection. Nothing more. He should not be here." An hour later, Cal was released. They drove back to the garage in silence. He didn't ask questions. She didn't offer explanations. When they arrived, he stepped out of the truck and walked toward the ruined garage. The sky was cloudy. Everything felt heavier. Anna followed him. He sat down against the blackened wall, staring at the twisted frame of the race car he had tried so hard to save. She approached slowly, unsure. "I was going to tell you," she began. He didn't look at her. "I thought you were someone like me," he said quietly. "Someone just trying to find a place in the world." "I am." "No, you're someone who came from a world I'll never belong to. You weren't honest with me, and now I don't know what was real." She knelt beside him. Everything was real. What I felt, what I said, what I did here, it was all real. He shook his head. "You shouldn't have come into my life if you planned to leave it." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. That night, she packed her things. She didn't leave a note of apology. She didn't cry. She simply folded the jumpsuit Cal had given her, placed it on the cot, and set a notebook on the workbench. Inside were her sketches, designs she'd made quietly over the past weeks, modifications to Cal's car, aerodynamic adjustments, engine cooling solutions, notes written in her precise handwriting. On the last page, one sentence stood alone. "We do not choose where we are born, but we can choose where we belong. I chose you, just not yet." Then she walked out into the night, leaving only the faint scent of jasmine and the echo of a door closing softly behind her. New York didn't feel like home anymore. But Anna walked into the FBI field office with the steadiness of someone who had nothing left to fear. She handed over a flash drive, a leather folder, and her signed affidavit. The agents reviewed her evidence in silence. Dozens of files stolen from Grant Wexler's laptop before she vanished. Bank transfers tied to shell companies, fabricated contracts, conversations detailing the removal of her father from the company by any means necessary. When they asked if she was ready to testify, she answered without hesitation. "Yes, I'm done running." The operation moved quickly. With Anna's cooperation, the FBI set up a meeting, one Grant believed was a final negotiation with a European investor. Hidden cameras, wired agents, and prearranged signals were all in place. Anna didn't attend the meeting. She didn't need to. She watched from a surveillance van half a block away, her heart steady as Grant sealed his own fate. Within minutes of finalizing the deal, he was arrested, caught on tape admitting to crimes that would cost him everything. The footage made national news by morning. Later that day, Rowan Apparel called for an emergency press conference. The media buzzed with curiosity. For the first time since the scandal broke, Anna Rowan was stepping into the spotlight, not as a missing ace, but as a whistleblower. She stood behind the podium in a black blazer, her platinum hair tied back, and faced the flashing cameras without flinching. "I am terminating my engagement to Grant Wexler. I do so with full awareness of the lies and criminal activity he committed under the guise of business. No one, no matter how powerful, has the right to manipulate a company, a legacy, or a life for personal gain. Her words were firm, clear, and in that moment, the narrative shifted. She was no longer the runaway bride. She was the protector of her family name. Behind the stage, her father waited. Richard Rowan looked smaller than she remembered, humbled not by scandal, but by his own pride. When she stepped off the stage, he met her with tears in his eyes. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "I didn't see you for who you really are. Not a child, but a woman willing to do what I never had the courage to." She nodded. "You don't have to say more." But he did. "I'm proud of you, Anna. I truly am." She gave a soft smile, then turned and walked away. There were cameras waiting, interviews pending, family attorneys and publicists on standby. But Anna didn't stay. That chapter was closed. She didn't return to the penthouse. She didn't visit her office. She didn't speak to the press again. Instead, in the quiet of her hotel room, she opened her laptop and visited the website for the National Automotive Innovation Competition. She filled out the application form. Applicant name Cal Beckett. Submission title, Custom-Built Sustainable Race Car Prototype. Affiliation, Beckett's Garage. She uploaded the required documents, photos of the car, technical details, and performance specs she had helped him record before the fire. She included her own engineering notes, but left them unsigned. When the final question popped up, "Would you like to be contacted if this entry is selected for a prize?" She checked no. Then she closed her laptop, sat back in the dark, and let herself exhale. Cal had saved her more than once. He had protected her without knowing who she was. Now, quietly, she would return the favor, and maybe, just maybe, this time, it would be enough. The letter came in a plain white envelope with no return address. Cal almost threw it out with the junk mail until he saw the bold black header stamped across the top National Automotive Innovation Awards finalist invitation. At first he thought it was a mistake, some kind of scam, but inside was a printed confirmation. Cal Beckett. Beckett's Garage had been selected as one of the top 3 entries in the category of sustainable engineering and performance vehicles. A contact number was provided along with an RSVP for the ceremony in Los Angeles. He stared at the paper in silence for nearly 5 minutes. Later that day, he called the number. A cheerful assistant confirmed the nomination. "There was a woman who submitted the entry on your behalf," she said. "Didn't leave her name, just a note. If he wins, let him know it wasn't just for the engine. It was for the way he made someone believe in themselves again." Cal couldn't stop thinking about those words. He didn't know if it was her. He couldn't know for sure, but when the night of the ceremony came, he showed up. He wore the only suit he owned, a navy one that hadn't seen daylight since his cousin's wedding, and sat quietly in the 6th row of the conference hall. Spotlight swept across the polished stage. Engineers, designers, and corporate giants filled the seats around him. He felt out of place, but somehow not unwelcome. When the MC walked out, applause filled the room. The ceremony unfolded with all the usual fanfare, applause, tech demo, speeches about the future of innovation. Then came the final segment, the Breakthrough Independent Engineering Award. "And this year's finalists include an unexpected name," the announcer said, grinning. "An entry from a single-man garage in rural Arizona. The design, a high-efficiency race vehicle utilizing wind channel optimization and modified combustion cycles." Cal's breath caught in his chest. The announcer continued, "Here to present this special award is someone many of you will recognize." The audience turned. Cal sat up straighter from the side of the stage. A woman stepped into the light. Platinum hair, long and loose, a tailored black dress that moved with quiet confidence. Anya. She walked to the podium, eyes scanning the room until they found his. They didn't waver. There are people, she began, voice calm, clear, who change your life quietly. They don't ask for recognition. They don't ask for anything at all. They just show up when the world falls apart. And they do the right thing, not because they'll be rewarded, but because that's who they are. The room was still. I owe my life to one such man. He didn't know who I was. He didn't care. He saw someone scared and he offered safety. He saw someone lost and he gave them room to breathe again. He taught me that strength isn't loud. Sometimes it comes with grease-stained hands and a quiet heart. She paused, blinking back emotion. And tonight, I get to honor that man. She held up the plaque. The winner of the 2025 Independent Innovation Award is Cal Beckett. Beckett's Garage. The applause swelled. Cameras flashed, but Cal didn't move at first. He just looked at her, his name in lights, her in the spotlight. Then slowly, he rose to his feet. The room around him blurred as he walked to the stage. When he reached her, she smiled softly like it had been waiting in her all along. And in front of everyone, she whispered as she handed him the award, I meant every word. The ballroom was nearly empty by the time Cal stepped out onto the rooftop terrace. The lights of downtown Los Angeles shimmered in the distance, but up here, the noise had quieted. Just the hush of wind and the echo of applause still ringing in his ears. Anna was already there, leaning against the railing, her hair catching the breeze. She didn't turn when he approached. Not at first. He stopped beside her, hands tucked into the pockets of his suit. For a long moment, they said nothing. Then she spoke softly like she had been rehearsing the words for weeks. I didn't come back to say sorry, Cal. I came back to say, I never really left. Not in here. She pressed her palm gently to her chest. He studied her profile, strong, poised, but different from the woman who'd first stumbled into his garage, softer, perhaps, or maybe more certain. Why? He asked. Why do all this? Enter the car, set it up, plan everything, and not tell me. She turned toward him, then her voice quiet but unwavering. Because I wanted you to win for you. Not because you were helping a rich runaway. Not because of pity or scandal, but because your work is brilliant. Because you deserve it. Cal exhaled slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing. Then reaching up, he brushed his fingers gently against her cheek, just enough to feel that she was real. Still there, still his. You could have gone anywhere, he said. Anywhere in the world. But you came back to me. She nodded, blinking against the sting in her eyes. This time, I'm not running. If you'll have me, I'm staying. His voice was a whisper, rough and certain. This garage always had room for you. Not just to work, but to belong, to live. She stepped into his arms and he held her there steady like everything finally made sense. 1 year later, the sign above the new building read, Steel and Silk Academy. Set just outside Phoenix, the converted warehouse now buzzed with energy, tools clanking, engines humming, laughter echoing through the bay. It was a vocational center built for second chances, a space where troubled teens, war veterans, and young dreamers could learn trade skills in mechanics and automotive design. Cal oversaw the garage side. Anna ran the design studio where sketch pads and fabric swatches mixed with blueprints and CAD monitors. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the high windows, Anna knelt beside a small girl with wild brown curls and a pink dress stained with engine grease. Miss Anna, the girl asked, tilting her head. Can girls really be engineers, too? Anya smiled. She reached forward, wiping a streak of dirt off the girl's forehead with the sleeve of her shirt. Not only can they, she said gently. But sometimes they're the very best ones, the girl beamed. From across the room, Cal watched them with a quiet smile, a wrench in one hand, a pencil behind his ear. He caught Anya's eye, and she winked. It was simple. It was honest. And it was everything they had built with steel, with silk, and with the kind of love that didn't need grand gestures or perfect timing. Just two people who chose each other and never stopped choosing.